Hey guys, welcome to another episode in the deep playthrough of AC Unity. Let's wait till the Notre Dame stops. I can hardly hear myself. Anyways guys, in the previous episode I finally 100%ed the game, and in the meantime, in between episodes, I also completed the last two achievements which required a co-op player. I did it offline because it was quite a bit messy to find a co-op player to do 10 sync kills. So kills in synchronicity, like a couple of seconds max apart with the other player. So mostly at the same time assassinating enemies. And one revive, so one player had to die and then I had to revive them. I got those, so I think that's the first time I have had it. I think that is called platinum, having all the achievements, plus it's 100%, which I think is an achievement in itself, and not like figuratively speaking, but literally it is one of the Ubisoft achievements to get 100% total sync. So you cannot get platinum without 100%ing the game. Anyways, what's still on the agenda, but I will probably make that a separate playlist, is Assassin's Creed Unity. I will do that afterwards, but not before, and that is the aim of this episode and probably maybe also the next one, is I want to scan through the database to see if there are any entries that I did not reach yet in the playthrough itself, in the past 230 episodes, which is quite a lot, by the way. I am quickly going to... Yeah, I can do that maybe by head. I want to know how many hours that is. So 230 times, let's say 40 minutes per episode. That is 800, that is 9200 minutes. 9200 minutes divided by 60 is 920 divided by 6. 150 times 6 is 300. No. That is 900 minutes, and then I had 20, 200 minutes left, divided by 60 minutes, or 20 divided by 6, so that is 3. That's 3 hours. Yeah, I would say I played like 153 hours in 230 or so episodes. I am now gonna see if that is a bit correct. 1 second. So we do 230 times 40 minutes is 9200 divided by 60. Yes, 153 hours of playtime, and I think actually much closer to 200, because there were certain co-ops and haste missions that I discarded a lot of failed attempts, which are not in the playthrough, but which were playtime for me myself, so to say. Anywho, the database entries, they just popped up, so I did try, especially at the start, to read them regularly, but yeah, at one point I did not catch up on all of them, so I do think I read the, I'm not even going into it, I am pretty sure I've already read all of these, and I also did all these trainings, tutorial, and yeah, it's also not that relevant anymore. Yeah, I did it at the start. Either for sure offline and maybe also online, but I think actually offline. But yeah, it's not really relevant anymore because I know how the game works now. So the case files, yeah, it's basically the murder mystery case summaries. I for sure read most of them when mopping up the murder mysteries, like I don't know, 10 episodes ago or something, or maybe 5. I think I did them last, the murder mysteries. 5 episodes or something ago, maybe even less. So then here we have the encyclopedia and we have people, locations and miscellaneous. So let's start with people. Yeah, I'm not sure whether I've read them all. I will just, yeah, it's really a lot, to be honest. You know what, I will just see how far I get, trying to read through them fast. Just because it's a deep playthrough, I want to have the lore also a part of the playthrough. So here we go, Francois Thomas Germain. Hello, cutting in here at the beginning because this is big news. It's not terrible, often we get eyes on a grandmaster, even one who's been dead for a couple of centuries. And a sage to boot. This has massive potential and we're going to need to keep on him and find out what really happened to him. All the historical documentation I can find says he died in 1791, which, unless Arno invented time travel, means that the historical record is bollocks. All the historical documentation I can find says he dies in... Alright. Yeah, because probably we are playing after 1791 and then he was still alive. So that's why the person writing this says that the historical record indicating 1791 as the year of death is untrue. A silversmith and son of a silversmith, Germain was one of the legends of his trade, but he was doomed to die in obscurity. After an ill-defined scandal, possibly involving a violation of guild laws, he lost his position as silversmith to the King of France and was kicked out of his accommodation in the Louvre. He employed dozens of workers in a workshop factory that produced thousands of pieces, many of which have since been lost, stolen or melted down. If there's a kind of scandal I love, it is the ill-defined one. Two, I've got one, makes a lovely paperweight. 3, on an unrelated note, I think I'll get rid of this now. Alright, I don't know what he means by that. Probably that paperweight or something. Alright, Alois Latouche, a tax assessor during the reign of Louis XVI. Alois Latouche seemed destined for a life of middle-class mediocrity. He was a tax assessor. He only had himself to blame. Records indicated he was dismissed from his post amidst charges of bribery, and unable to find further employment, he sank into obscurity. A Versailles crime boss referred to him as Latouche, who was killed during a riot and a mass execution, may or may not have been the same man. A Versailles crime boss referred to as Latouche, who was killed during a riot at a mass execution, may or may not have been the same man. Assassins 7, Templar 0. I don't even remember how we took this guy out, actually. Yeah, now I am curious. 1 second. I will quickly Google that. How we killed him. I will just go to YouTube and then we put in his name. Alois Latouche. Alright, Latouche's unique assassination. I remember there was indeed a big public execution, and Latouche was presenting it more or less, and then we had to get close to him by pretending to be one of the convicted to death prisoners ourselves. And then we walked up to the scaffolds and we took him out. So that is about Monsieur Latouche, Joseph Terroin de Maricor. Yeah, we for sure read this one. But okay, I will read it quickly again. She was born on Joseph Terroin in Maricor. An unsuccessful opera singer, she joined the revolutionary movement shortly after the storming of the Bastille. She was involved with the Women's March and was in the crowd when the king was forced to pin a revolutionary cockade on his head. Maricor cut a unique figure in a crowd with a preferred outfit featuring a riding habit, man's hat and pistols. What the hell is a riding habit? In the early days of the revolution, she regularly attended the National Assembly, watching from the galleries and following it when it moved from Versailles to Paris. Maricor left Paris in 1790 and was arrested by the Austrians, who would later release her. She returned to Paris in 1792, eagerly rejoining the revolutionary cause. Her imprisonment increased her notoriety and she was invited to speak at the Jacobin Club. She became an ardent supporter of Brissot and the Girondists, which led to her being attacked and beaten by a group of Jacobins in 1793. Alright, interesting. Let's quickly see what a riding habit is. I have no idea. Riding habits is women's clothing for horseback riding. Usually consisted of a tailored jacket with a long skirt, sometimes called a petticoat to match, a tailored shirt or chemisette, a hat, often in the most formal men's style of the day. Since the Victorian era, a top hat with a veil has been worn. Alright, Arno shows Seth. Arno Victor Dorian. Born to Charles and Maria Anne Dorian in 1768, Arno appears to have spent... Yeah, I'm not gonna read this one. We for sure already read it. Charles Gabriel Siver, born, yeah. Yeah, we already read it, but I will quickly read it. It's not that long. Born on December 1st, 1725 in Louisburg, New France, Siver was the son of a lieutenant in the Swiss regiment de Carrère. Like his father, Siver chose to make his career in the army, serving in the New France and the West Indies, before returning to Europe in 1785, so when he was 60, where he opened a shipping business. Right, a shipping business. Very diplomatic way of saying Templar artifact smuggling. We've got data linking Siver to everything from funding Haytham Kenway's operations in the American colonies to the disastrous attempt to recover. Well, never mind, you're not cleared for that. Just keep an eye on this one, yeah? He died at Notre Dame de Paris on January 5th, 1791. Assassins 1, Templar 0. Yeah, the reason I'm also now reading it again, because I will be playing AC3 and I think, and also AC Rogue. And I think Haytham Kenway, I think that's the father. I'm not sure whether I'm mixing it up, but it's either the guy from, I think it's the father from the guy from Black Flag, Connor Kenway. So I will be playing that, so it's nice to have this link to Unity as well, to this Siver guy. That's why I read it, even though I read it before. Chrétien Lafreniere, born in 1730 as the third son of a wealthy importer of spices. Chrétien Lafreniere was destined for the church. He studied at the Sorbonne and entered seminary school in 1750, but when his father and elder siblings died in a shipwreck off the coast of Mauritius, he left the seminary to take the reins of his family business. Most of his income, however, seems to have been spent joining and founding numerous secret societies and fringe religious groups. By the time of the revolution, he was living in hiding, likely from creditors. Still, he probably had lots of lovely membership cards and newsletters to read from all those wonderful societies he blew his money on. He was killed, possibly sacrificed during a satanic black mask in the Cimetière des Innocents in late March 1791. Assassin's Creed Templar 0. Yes, I think this was one of our assassination targets. Still, you have to admire the Templars' revisionist streak here. If you're not with us, you're a reprobate devil worshipper. History is written by the victors after all, and in this case the victors are utter bastards. Yeah, I'm not sure that note on the revisionist streak, like that he is being described as a reprobate devil worshipper. I'm not really sure whether this really makes him out to be a reprobate devil worshipper. It only said that he says he was destined for the church, he started working in the family business, and then he was in hiding from creditors. Okay, maybe it is that other section. He was killed, possibly sacrificed during a satanic black mass. So that is why, that's probably why it's being referred to as him being described as a reprobate devil worshipper. Alright, Esquis de Floirac, a co-prior of the convent of Montfaucon, Esquier had been imprisoned at the same time as a renegade Templar. Esquier and this unnamed Templar confided in each other, whereupon the Templar allegedly revealed a great many vices and misdeeds within the order. Upon the strength of this evidence, the order of the poor Knights of the Templar of Solomon, the Knights Templar, were rounded up and destroyed. Alright. François de la Serre. Yeah, we really for sure read this one. I'm gonna skip it, there's too much to read still. François Henriot, a Paris urchin, even if he was born in the suburbs in Nanterre. Alright, one moment. No idea what urchin means. A young child who is poorly or wretchedly dressed. Alright. Never heard of that. One moment, just checking it out. Yeah, it's also a lot translated as sea eagle, or how do you say it, hedgehog. He was surrounded by a dozen street urchins in rags. Alright, born in the suburbs in Nanterre. Even if he was born in the suburbs in Nanterre, Henriot was a true son of the people at a time when most of the assembly was comprised of enlightened members of the bourgeoisie and repressed lawyers. And by true son they of course mean Templar puppets, or as I call them, a tuppet. Henriot was working as a tax clerk in the Paris Octroi when on July 12, 1789, angry Parisians attempted to set fire to the building to protest against taxes. Inspired, Henriot joined in. Well, there's a guy who was happy in his work. His bosses should have seen that kind of unrest coming. Really. I mean, half his name is the word riot. And so began his revolutionary career. He was promptly thrown into jail. He found glory once he and his new friends were released thanks to a press campaign overseen by Marat. An elected commander of the Jardin des Plantes section, he led to the storming of the Tuileries on August 10th. Henriot and others organized the September massacres, offering a daily wage and free wine to the killers. By May 1793, he was appointed Commander General of the Paris National Guards. He fought against the Girondists with such fury that Marat proclaimed him the nation's savior, presumably for his unique brand of motivational management. Henriot became one of Robespierre's henchmen. When he was later captured along with other radicals of the Umbrage, Robespierre came to the rescue. Henriot sought to return the favor at Robespierre's arrest, but by then he had lost control of his men. The president of the Revolutionary Tribunal, Coffinhal, called him an incompetent and a drunk, which is much the same as calling someone incompetent in French. Coffinhal had him thrown out of a window of the Hotel de Ville. Wounded, he was later found and thrown on a cart along with his idol Robespierre to be taken to the guillotine, half dead. Yeah, it's all those guys got karma handed to them. Alright, Frederick Rouy. Captain Frederick Rouy joined the Garde Française in 1789, just in time to witness the beginning of the revolution. As the son of a poor cobbler, Rouy had no hope of advancement into the aristocratic officer corps of the Guards, and by the accounts of his contemporaries, Rouy himself left no letters or journals behind and may have been illiterate. The rhetoric of the revolution found a true believer in him. When the bulk of the Garde Française defected to the Garde Nationale, Rouy was among them. He rose quickly through the ranks, unhindered by his lack of aristocratic breeding, and along with Santerre was one of the key figures in the storming of the Tuileries Palace. He was also a violent, sadistic monster who used revolutionary fervor as an excuse to murder and pillage his way across France. But we all have our faults. I mean, I chew my nails. He died at the Conciergerie prison, killed during the September massacres. Assessors 4, Templar 0. I really don't remember killing of this dude. I will also quickly see if I can get a quick video on it. 1 second. To refresh my mind. Frederick Rouy assassination. Sorry, I have something in my eye. The September massacres assassinate Frederick Rouy. Alright, I have no idea anymore how this one went. Ah, I remember, it was, I think, just on top of a fort indeed. Almost there. 1 second. I'm just now watching a video on... Yes. It was just a guy on top of a fort. It was not really with any signature kill or anything. Alright, Georges Jacques Danton is a favorite subject of French school textbook, in which he is often portrayed generously in spite of his turpitudes. Alright, 1 second. Sorry. No ID. Or I did think I already checked it out earlier, but I forgot. What are turpitudes? Depraved or wicked behavior or character. Alright, 1 moment. I'm just looking it up in my native tongue. Yes, it's like a sickness, so to say, figuratively speaking. In reality, he went from one failure to the next. He held a subordinate office in the commune before the section refused to promote him. Once the king had been escorted back to Paris after his capture at Varennes, Danton first called for his death before retracting to merely call for the king's abdication. I.e., he was allied with the assassins, meaning that of course the Abstergo historian will argue for his historical irrelevance. He was not even elected to the short-lived Legislative Assembly in 1791. He made the most of his free time to engage in business, purchasing national assets and consolidating his fortune. He remained on the sidelines during the events of June 20th, 1792, and later played no part in the preparations of August the 10th. Up until the Battle of Valmy, this so-called Minister of the People embodied France's regained audacity and patriotic unity. Note the use of the word audacity. Danton's famous for calling for audacity, more audacity, always audacity in the face of overwhelming odds against the Austrian army in 1792. It's credited for rallying the troops enough to save Paris. You may count a small thing like that as among his 0 accomplishments. Yeah, they say the preparations of August 10th. No idea what happened there. So, 1 second. August 10th, 1792. The insurrection of August 10, 1792 was a defining event of the French Revolution when armed revolutionaries in Paris, increasingly in conflict with the French monarchy, stormed the Tuileries Palace. Alright, that was the storming of the palace. Notes. Alright, we already read that. The Girondists condemned Danton's management at the Ministry of Justice and his responsibility in the September massacres. Suspected of playing on both sides, he would never render accounts. After his time as Minister of Justice, he was removed from the Committee of Public Safety after serving a mere few months. Increasingly, man, these notes are so annoying, these asterisks and stuff. It are mostly lame jokes, and there are way too many. There are like 3 in this little section. Increasingly, as the revolution went on, Danton called for the laying down of arms, proclaiming the need to spare the blood of men. Robespierre and Saint-Just accused him of being excessively moderate, in other words, of treason. Accused him of being moderate of treason. Far be it for me to say Danton didn't have his flaws. Among them, he actually did nothing about the September massacres. He's been accused of causing them. There's no evidence of that, and some historical debate as to whether he could have stopped the mobs. Alright, so that's number 3. Yeah. Alright, you have number 3, then you have 4 asterisks, and then again you have 3 asterisks, and then you have 6. So that second 3 asterisks should be 5, I'm sure. And many money to the tune of 200,000 livres went missing while he was Minister of Finance. Alright. Minister of Justice. 5, not mentioned, he helped found the committee, another of his non-accomplishments. Alright, and then 6, trying to end, so he helped found the public, the Committee of Public Safety. Trying to end the terror, not an accomplishment. Check. Though I suppose he didn't actually end it, so kudos Abstergo historian, no points for just trying, eh? Danton called, increasingly as the revolution went on, Danton called for the laying down of arms, proclaiming the need to spare the blood of men. Yeah, this is what I mean with these overly convoluted footnotes. They are mostly like lame jokes. Like that 6th one. Danton was led to the revolutionary tribal on March 30th, 1794. Sanson reduced him to silence on April the 4th, along with 28 other Dantonists. Alright, so you have Danton and you have his loyalists called Dantonists. Honoré Gabriel Riquetti, Comte de Mirabeau. Yeah, pretty sure. Sure. I already read this one. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced I already read that one in one of the episodes. Jacques Roux, ordained in 1779, the son of an infantry lieutenant, served as a lowly vicar in the Diocese of Saintes. He encouraged those who took part in anti-feudal peasant movements to come to the parish to which he ministered. Promptly removed from his parish, the Red Priest took refuge in Paris. Not the best nickname, isn't it? I mean, it's hardly the Black Widow. He just sounds like a permanently embarrassed member of the clergy, which these days is many of them. What's his nickname? The Red Priest. Alright. Roux would soon earn the moniker of Petit Marat. Preaching to the Cordeliers Club, his rhetoric became increasingly incendiary. He encouraged the looting of shops on February 25th, 1793. All his actions focused on the issue of livelihood. The working class, the only one useful to society, was dying of hunger. He petitioned for the punishment of speculators, usurers and employers who exploited their workers. All of which sounds completely reasonable, which is why you need to keep reading. Alright, what the hell is usurer again? One moment. A person who lends money at unreasonably high rates of interest. On June 25th, 1793, he proclaimed his Manifesto of the Enraged to the National Convention. He was booed out. By June 28th, he was violently denounced by Robespierre, who had him expelled from the Cordeliers. What the hell are the Cordeliers again? Did we read about that? Yeah, preaching to the Cordeliers Club, where he then was expelled later on. Marat also turned against him, denouncing him as a false patriot and a criminal in his newspaper, L'Ami du Peuple. No sooner had Marat met his death than Roux took over the newspaper. He lambasted the slowness of the guillotine and the absence of any real social measures. You have to admit, too crazy for Robespierre allows this gentleman to take his place as a member of a rather select group. Gentleman, it should be singular, I guess. So that is the third. He was booed out by June 28th. He was violently denounced by Robespierre. That is the third footnote. You have to admit, too crazy for Robespierre allows this gentleman to take his place as a member of a rather select group. I agree. Robespierre was totally crazy. So if even Robespierre thinks you're a bit extreme, you're like ultra extreme. 4. The guillotine is slow is not a complaint you will have heard from many people of the time. He would later be imprisoned at Saint-Pelagier, where he continued to write his journal. He was removed to another prison where he succeeded in stabbing himself mortally. On February the 10th, 1794. So that is approximately a year, a little bit less than a year, or let's say 8 months after he was denounced by Robespierre. The preach is when he killed himself in prison. The preacher of the Sans-Culottes had failed to develop a viable political system, but had nevertheless been the voice of the oppressed. That's right, he stabbed himself fatally. You know, the way people often stab themselves. No assassins involved whatsoever. Just one of those violent and sustained self-stabbings. Yeah, was this also one of our targets? Let's quickly check that. AC Unity. Rule. Assassination. Yes, rule remain. Ah, that's a social club mission. Kill Roux's lieutenants. Assassinate Jacques Roux. It is actually a genuine assassination mission at the Hospital de la Salpêtrière. Don't really remember it. I do remember that was one of the. I remember. It was in the asylum. First you had to do some sub-objectives, and then I think you could take him out in the building, in the garden, at the backside of it. One moment. I'm just quickly looking on YouTube. To the actual assassination, but almost there. Yes, I remember it. It was indeed what I said. He was in between two guards, in between two buildings in the garden, and there you had to assassinate him. Alright, so that's also an assassination target. Jacques de Molay. I'm pretty sure we already read this one. This was all at the prologue, the introductory video where he got killed. Yes, we read that one, I assume. King Louis XVI, probably as well, but I will read it again. Louis was never meant to become king, but his father died in 1765, followed by his two older brothers. When his grandfather Louis XV died in 1774, he came to a throne for which he was ill-prepared. Louis and his wife would fail to provide France with an heir for 7 years, to the derision of the French people. Even the celebration of their wedding day would end in tragedy, with the death of 100 Parisians following a stampede at a fireworks display. An indecisive man, and in the words of one deputy, the king spent his whole life saying each evening that he was mistaken that same morning. As his younger brother, the future Charles X, would say, not without irony, trying to get Louis to hold to a position was like trying to hold greased billiard balls together. Amazing that phrase never caught on really, but then trying to get a phrase to catch on is like oiling a hammer and expecting a cat to marry it. You can use that one if you like. His 19-year reign would become increasingly agitated since the court was incapable of reform. Louis XV had merely covered up the nation's problem without actually resolving anything. His heir, hitting the 40-minute marker, his heir wished to be called Louis the Severe, to contrast with the permissiveness and debauchery of his grandfather. But as far as public opinion was concerned, he would be Louis the Weak. Never mind Louis the Weak, there were so many men called Louis around, you could have had a Louis of the Week. What decisions had he actually managed to make turned against him? The war with England to support Franklin and Washington would ruin the kingdom, and by 1789 the debt-ridden France had reached a state of virtual bankruptcy. This situation was exacerbated by the trade treaty with London. The British, who were way ahead of the French technologically, inundated France with their industrial products, spelling ruin for French artisans. Some of these products would even be used in the revolutionary riots. While food shortages were due to bad crops and weather, those who were hungry blamed them on the rich. Meanwhile, pampered and pensioned in Versailles, far away from their roots, the nobility had become another adversary that would further undermine the system. The same went for the lower orders of the clergy, who shared the general misery of their flock. The king didn't see it coming. The nobles would bring about a revolution to which they too would fall victim. In summer of 1791, with the revolution heating up, Louis approved the perilous plan to secretly flee from Paris to the supposedly loyal troops in the east. The royal family's arrest at Varennes would spell the end of absolute monarchy. On August 10th, when the grounds of the Tuileries were invaded, Louis took refuge in the National Assembly. But the damage was done. Shortly thereafter he was stripped of his power, arrested and sent to the medieval fortress of the Temple, and from there to his doom. His trial was brief and ultimately only for show. Witnesses who testified in his favor were massacred in 2 instances, while the documents that could have proved him innocent were not passed on to his defenders. In short, it was a travesty. The judges had all but decided on the verdict from the onset. The absolute monarch, who didn't even reign over his court, was influenced by all those who surrounded him. What should I do? He asked the reactionary French writer Rivarol in September 1789. Act like a king, came the reply. If only Louis, who had a passion for geography and great exploration, and whose hobbies were locksmithing and carpentry, was simply... If only. Louis, who had a passion for geography and great exploration, and whose hobbies were locksmithing and carpentry, was simply not cut out for the job. In my experience, you should never trust a man who lists his hobby as locksmithing. Man, just skip those lame jokes, I would say. Alright, we are at Louis Michel Le Pelletier. God damn it, I was afraid of this. This really is quite some reading. But yeah, I will just continue in the next one with Louis Michel Le Pelletier. Guys, hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you in the next episodes, continuing up on the background stories. For the meantime, do not forget, always do keep on gaming. See you later.